In this video, we will guide you through the steps on how to remove a stripped crank bolt without having to drill it out. You will need a stripped nut and bolt socket to perform this method. The socket has fluted teeth that bite into the head of the bolt. First, the outer ring will need to be removed. If the ring is not jammed, you can remove it with a snap ring pliers. If the ring is stuck, a punch can be used to knock it loose. Fully remove the ring. Now we have access to the head of the bolt. Choose a socket close to the size of your bolt. Try placing the socket over the bolt head. It shouldn't be too loose or too small. Tap the socket onto the bolt to get it seated fully. Once the socket is centered, use stronger strikes to get the socket fully engaged onto the bolt. Make sure the socket is snugly bitten into the crank bolt. Now attach a wrench to the socket, apply resistance, and remove the bolt. Completely remove the crank bolt from the frame. You may need a vise to remove the bolt from the socket. If you intend to remove the crank, you can now use a crank puller. Otherwise, you can now safely install the new crank bolt. Unthread the crank puller head as far as possible before placing it inside of the crank arm. Thread the crank puller head into the crank arm as deep as possible. Make sure the crank puller head is fully seated with no threads exposed whatsoever. Thread in the pulling tool. Keep threading the crank puller until the crank arm falls off.